Welcome to this explainer. Today we're doing a forensic breakdown of a highly respected AI company that just quietly admitted, well, that it could go bankrupt. Imagine being at the absolute center of a trillion-dollar tech gold rush, right? You're building software everyone from Silicon Valley to the Pentagon is fighting over. And we're not just talking about any company. Anthropic was founded by former OpenAI researchers who left specifically to prioritize safety. They're seen as the absolute gold standard for responsible AI. But as you're about to see, beneath the surface of their massive valuation, the math just isn't adding up. Just listen to this jarring truth bomb from Anthropic CEO Dario Amodei. Now, Amodei is one of the most respected minds in machine learning. He literally led the research that kicked off this whole AI wave. So when he says that a single year of missed revenue could literally sink your entire company, wow, that completely exposes the stark reality behind all this AI hype. We're constantly told that AI is this unstoppable economic engine, so hearing a leading creator issue a bankruptcy warning sounds almost impossible to believe. But honestly, the economics of this industry are incredibly unforgiving. And this perfectly illustrates the massive disconnect we're investigating today. On one side, you've got the media and the market treating AI like an infinite money printer, a guaranteed ticket to $1 trillion valuation. But on the other side, inside the actual boardrooms of top AI creators, there's a really stark financial vulnerability. So we're going to look closely at how one of the most talented teams in artificial intelligence found themselves staring down a financial black hole, totally trapped between their founding principles and the astronomical cost of doing business. To make sense of this fragile situation, we're going to track Anthropic's hurdles across 6 critical areas. First, the AI boom illusion. Second, the financial black hole. Then, the $200 million stand. Fourth, the supply chain fallout. Fifth, hitting the scaling wall. And finally, the price of safe AI. Let's dive right into our first section, the AI boom illusion and the reality of this trillion-dollar gold rush. Here's the thing. Just building software everyone wants doesn't automatically shield you from reality. You can have a world-class product like the Claude AI. Millions of users absolutely love its advanced coding, its nuanced writing, and it's widely recognized as the premium ethical alternative in the space. But converting all that immense public goodwill into enough steady, high-margin enterprise revenue to actually survive, that's proving incredibly difficult. The gap between a cool consumer tool and a sustainable business model is huge. Which brings us to Section 2, the financial black hole and the reality of burning through cash. To really wrap our heads around this economic reality, we need to look at the industry baseline, $14 billion. That's what rival OpenAI is projected to lose in 2026 alone. $14 billion. And Anthropic is facing a similarly desperate crisis. This cash burn is happening at an eye-watering rate because they're essentially building the infrastructure of the future from scratch. This money pays for tens of thousands of those highly expensive NVIDIA chips, massive, power-hungry data centers, and the salaries of the rarest engineering talent on the planet. They literally have to spend like a massive tech giant just to keep up. So what's causing this financial black hole? It's the sheer cost of building what are called foundation models. Creating these state-of-the-art AI systems requires billions of dollars in raw compute power upfront. But here's the catch, and it's a big one. While the cost to train these ever larger models continues to skyrocket, the revenue coming in is fundamentally constrained. Across the entire industry, the price to access these models is being driven down towards zero in a fierce race to the bottom. So you've got astronomical escalating investments going out, while the actual profit margins are shrinking. You can see how their backs are against the wall here. Because of those massive compute costs, Anthropic reportedly had to set a very high asking price when Apple came looking for a partner to upgrade its Siri assistant. They literally priced themselves out of a deal with a $4 trillion company. The irony is that Apple walked away and just chose to lease Google's Gemini instead, purely because it made better financial sense. When an AI startup desperately needs capital, but has to demand such high prices that even Apple walks away, well, that highlights a massive structural problem in the business model. All right, let's move into our next phase, Section 3, the $200 million stand and the ultimatum. This was an absolute code red moment for Anthropic. Early in 2026, they secured a $200 million national security contract with the Pentagon. But the government outlined some intense technical requirements. They asked Anthropic to completely remove their standard safety safeguards for combat scenarios. They wanted capabilities for domestic mass surveillance, like cross-referencing geolocation and bank records. And, maybe most shockingly, they wanted the software to support fully autonomous weapons, no human in the loop. These demands forced Anthropic into a brutal corner. placing them right between their core ethical principles and a massive, highly lucrative payout. The timeline here was incredibly intense. On February 24th, the government issued an ultimatum demanding compliance by 5:01 p.m. that Friday. Maintaining strict adherence to his company's safety charters, CEO Dario Amodei bravely refused the ultimatum right at that 5:01 p.m. deadline, making it clear they could not fulfill those specific use cases. And as you'll see, the retaliation was swift and severe, hitting the company just mere hours later. Which leads us to Section 4, the supply chain fallout, and what we might call the hallucination tax. Immediately after that refusal, Anthropic was hit with a devastating label: supply chain risk. This is a designation that has literally never been given to an American software company before. In the bureaucratic world, this isn't a slap on the wrist. It's effectively a federal blacklist. It completely bans all government agencies from using their tools. By taking this moral stand, Anthropic didn't just lose a single $200 million contract, they completely cut themselves off from direct government revenue, alienating one of the largest technology buyers on the planet. And look at the contrast here, it is wild. Just hours after Anthropic was kicked out, Sam Altman and OpenAI swooped in and accepted the exact terms of the deal Anthropic had rejected, securing all that vast government funding and access. Anthropic essentially paid a heavy financial tax for their ethics. While some of the public might love that decision, venture capitalists, they look at the bottom line. VCs generally prioritizes aggressive market capture over self-imposed technical limits. Consequently, many in the venture capital space started viewing Anthropic as a dead end, terrified they'll just keep passing up lucrative opportunities that their rivals gladly swallow up. Let's turn to Section 5, hitting the scaling wall. What happens when bigger isn't smarter? As if the lost revenue wasn't enough, a massive technical roadblock is threatening the whole industry's premise. For years, the core strategy was simple: build bigger models, feed them more data, and they get smarter. Amodei actually helped prove this scaling law originally. But now, he admits pre-training scaling is tapped out. They are hitting a local limit. The reality is, AI companies are literally running out of high-quality human text on the internet to train these models on. Once that data is exhausted, just throwing billions more dollars at the problem yields heavily diminishing returns in intelligence. Hitting this brick wall is a total financial disaster for a company whose entire value is built on being smarter than the competition. If throwing money at the problem no longer creates a proportionally smarter AI, it could trigger an AI winter, a prolonged deep freeze in funding and interest. These multi-billion-dollar valuations are entirely based on the promise that they are on a direct path to artificial general intelligence, or AGI. If they stall out, that foundational thesis for sky-high stock prices just crumbles. For companies so reliant on an edge, losing the ability to simply outscale competitors is a massive, massive threat. Finally, Section 6, the price of safe AI and surviving the winter. So, where does that leave Anthropic? They find themselves in a highly precarious position. They're trying to navigate rules written by aggressive corporations and the military, all while heavily indexing on pure research and safety. Their path forward? They have to prove that being the safe, constrained alternative is actually economically viable in the long run. They need to keep the lights on and fund their massive compute needs right as venture capital might begin to dry up for them. And they have to do it while watching endless streams of infinite money flow directly to rivals who are more than willing to accommodate the demands of government and enterprise clients. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a final thought about the true cost of ethics in this AI gold rush. When the financial realities are this brutal and the required capital is this vast, did Anthropic make the right move by standing up to the government and sticking to their safety charters? Or by rejecting that massive contract, did they just sign their own death warrant? It's a fascinating dilemma, and one that is absolutely going to shape the future of artificial intelligence. Thanks so much for joining me today.